institutional, right? And then to the last one of how you can, should we say, transit these small scale enterprises to companies that can outlast them. I went to school in Osaka. I used Ekendilichuku. And after a while, I think the gentleman passed away. There's no more Ekendilichuku of that scale that we saw. What's the difference? We do not do incorporation in Nigeria, i.e., we incorporate the ownership, but not the transfer of ownership. If you have a company in Nigeria, that company should be your, should we say, that company should be your pension scheme, in that when you are leaving, you are transferring ownership to somebody, management, I mean, to somebody else, but you retain ownership. In Nigeria, we want to do ownership and management together. Your kids might not be good managers, but they can be owners. Mars Chocolates, they are owned by a family called Mars. They don't run the company. BMW, 49% is owned by a family called the Quants. The kids don't run BMW, but the company runs itself and the kids own the company. So you have to separate ownership from management. And how do you do this if you list the company in a stock exchange? So your family can own the preference shares or common shares, and you can appoint a CEO to run the company. So you can stay in Canada as the owner of a company, but the company is being run. And we have the Onitsha Stock Exchange. This is what they should be doing. They should be focused on second tier, third tier stock listings to get those companies. Go to the guy and say, listen, you are 65. What's your plan for succession? Okay, let's incorporate this organization. We will give you 80%. List 20%. This company runs as you keep on going. You hire a CEO. So if you retire, your kids own these shares. Owning the shares doesn't mean they run the company, but it's going on forever. Dangote listed 5% of Dangote Cement. Dangote's kids don't run Dangote Cement or Dangote Flour or Dangote anything, but Dangote still owns it. Dangote Refinery is run by an Indian, not Dangote's children. So you separate the ownership, right, from the management, then the company becomes a going concern.
My brother, I hear you, but Marana, growing up, you know, because these are the things beyond your, these are things in your environment that you see, you emulate them. Marana, growing up, we saw our fathers, we go to the shop, we buy a good for 100 naira, we, mark it up 10%, 15% max, you sell. You go, you try as much as possible to, doing quantity. Now, there is this new era where the things you talk about in terms of diversifying ownership come in here. You talk about Onitsha Stock Exchange. Now, the question they hear, Abuna, onye gbasa boy, mekata nwego, maybe na lose estate, or maybe na lu moto, or na lu motorcycle, he or she does not understand. Omaro Togesi got to the next level. So he's stuck actually. You gave an example of Ekene Dejuku. I know when we used to go to Kanu, Bauchi, Zaria, Yola, Medugri, we used to use Ekesin, New Tazan, about 10 of them. But in Anya today, I don't think there are 3 standing. Not that they took risk then, because that's what they knew. You recall that during Abacha's time, or even before Abacha's time, they used to buy this Marco Polo from Brazil, and they paid them on, that was what banks then introduced to them, finance them, they will be paying as they generate income. And it worked. They were not static in thinking, because somebody came, explained something to them, they bought it. It helped them scale up. But today, it appears that that level of education or the institution to go in and help them without necessarily duping them, because I think maybe that's where the issue might be. So, my second leg of the question to you, kedu ndobo kenolu ha, kedu ndi kwesịrị n'ije na-akọwalụ these people, what and how you would do this to scale this up, that even if when you die 10, 2, 3, 4 generations will still be profiting from this business?
Yeah, it's got to be a PPP, both the private sector with the government. I'll give you a good story. there was a bank called Standard Bank. No, Crystal Bank. Crystal Bank went away. Then there was a bank called Standard Bank that bought that license. Before Standard Bank bought that license was the bank in Nigeria. I don't want to mention the bank that did online real time. If you remember in the past in Nigeria, if you opened a bank account in Onitsha, you could not go to Lagos and take money out in Lagos. You can only go to your branch where you have your account and take out money. A Nigerian bank brought online real time. I went and told people, I have online real time. Nobody understood what they were saying because there was no internet back then. Another bank called Standard Bank was bought over by a young guy. He went and told the traders in Onitsha, put money on Onitsha, take the money in Lagos. They understood it that way. And that's how that bank scaled. People would go to Onitsha. Is this impossible? You put money in Nugu, put money in Aba, go to Lagos, instead of going carrying your cash via night bus. You go to Lagos, take your cash and do business. You've got to sell people in the language you understand. If you tell someone to buy shares or to incorporate your company, he doesn't know what you're talking about because it's incorporation. You've got to say it in a way that they appreciate what you are saying. Warren Buffett has just retired. He's giving all his money away to charity. He has kids. But that's America. That's their culture. If you come to Nigeria, you've got to explain this ownership and management in a way that people follow and understand. I just used Dangote as an example. Dangote is the richest man in Nigeria. He owns the refineries, he owns the cement company. He sold just 5%. Only 5% of the cement company, meaning the richest Nigerian. His family doesn't run that company. He owns it. So someone is running it. Nobody wants to retire in Nigeria because they are scared if they retire, who will run the company. But if you go to so many traders in Onitsha, they are old, they want to retire and travel the world, but they are afraid who will run this company. So you have to then have managers. There are so many young men that have gone to school in Nigeria that can manage a company, but have no opportunity. So using the government and the private sector, you've got to sell this skill, but you also have to have the personnel that can come in and run this company. There's so many guys are working in Lagos in a bank that have experience. I want to come back home. There's no job for them. If you go to 5 banks, you can find mid-level guys that can come back to Onitsha and run these mid-level companies for you. Make them the CEO. But why will they come if they're going to be your quote-unquote boy? Nobody wants to be a boy. But if you give him a job, you give him equity, he will grow the place because now he has a stake, but you own it. The point is you've got to sell it properly and have the skill set. So it's going to be a PPP thing to sell. It won't happen in a day. The same way we have Teslas today, the world is changing. We can't run the world the way we ran it in 1960. Igbo boy had its use. If you don't upgrade it today, it will lose its relevance. Why should I do Igbo boy when I can go online and learn a skill? Then I can buy Bitcoin and get funding. Why do I need to do Igbo boy? So if you don't make it relevant, the same we look at, again, we use the example of BMW. They go to the schools, they get these young kids, they teach them mechanics in secondary school, primary school. So when they are out, it's a different path from going to university. You've got to start to do that. So you get these kids involved in management, in administration, in STEM education topics. Otherwise, it will lose relevance and you then find a paucity of skill sets in the Southeast and all.
Okay. I hear you when you say the government need to be involved. And I think many people, ndị ga na-ege ntị ga-asị gị na gọọmenti ọzọkwa. Gọọmenti omego nke mbụ nkwa ha kwere na mbụ ma ya bụrụ nke ha ga-eji mee nke abụọ. We know of certain state government that promised that I got formalize Igbo boy, for instance. After how many years? One behind. To structure it that now what actually Igbo boy 6 years is equivalent of Onye Jelu University and come out with a certificate. Kedu the mechanism, kedu the structure to do that? I have to go keke jelami, I have to go to anata. So, you know, I don't know, but I'm not trying to be very skeptical. I'm not trying to be skeptical, but don't you think no way to aga-esi mee ya? Ama m na gọọmenti dị ka isi aka adị arapụfa were agba olioni. Mana how else can we do it that na anyị ga-ebido to talk to our big, you know, traders ka convert kene this into, I don't know, into big entities that would outlive them when they go.
Mm.
If you
So
take government out of this equation, or they can well any opportunity at all.
not really. So when you say government, you mean the regulations. We don't want government to run anything. There has to be laws. You have to incentivize people to do what we're saying. Again, if you scenario, if you own a 100 million naira factory today and you pass away, what happens to that factory? The normal Nigerian thing, people will fight over it. The company might shut down and all that till whoever wins, wins. But who owns that company? Is the person that has the key, lock and key, and can bring in the armed men, take over that factory. He can't run a company like that. No one's going to invest in that sort of company. If you have ownership, whoever owns the shares owns the company. If you sell it this way, then if I'm passing away, it doesn't have to be in a will. This is company shares. I give the shares, I divide the shares to whoever I want to give the shares to. So, and it cannot be challenged in court. You take away the court case, you take away you know what I'm talking about, right? You have to sell it properly. If I sat in a room with with CEOs in Southeast, I could sell this to them. This is what you're looking out for. It's not those guys are not, you're not doing equity to make money. You are transferring ownership. You are reducing your estate taxes. If you don't do this properly, the state can come in and say, want to tax this building. How do you pay your estate taxes? The same way, if you have property abroad, you don't do this properly, the US government, the UK government will take that property because it has no ownership. There's Hotel Bobby Benson in Lagos. It's still there. I grew up in Lagos. It was there. It's still there, unoccupied. There's a court case. It's still there. So if you don't do these things properly, you are exposing yourself, your assets to deterioration. And that's what you have to sell. It's not just to make money. The South, if you go to, we are more like the Asians. If you go to China and Hong Kong, you see all these families. You see a family that's controlling billions. And then they have issues with by tradition, it goes to the first son, the second son. But sometimes you see fights. Then they say, okay, there are no shares. And you see Ambil in India, the richest man in India had two sons and a wife. And while he was alive, he said, you take this, you take this. But there was no formal agreement. And the two brothers fought. It got to a point that the Indian government had to call them and say, listen, if you don't stop this fight, it's going to affect the Indian economy. So go and settle it, share these things amongst yourselves and come back. That's what they did. So Reliance, that we see that is the largest company in India, largest conglomerate, had this issue. So it's a big problem outside the West. The West have understood this. We've got to understand this. That's how you scale the corporation. Lipton is a family. Bonvita, Cadbury is a family. We've got to have that also in Nigeria as well.
Okay, so ultimately Sikowaya, and I think in English it will be called financial literacy. So I think that is what we are lacking, and maybe that's where you then have to come in here. There must be a way that the Mariga Koala, because when on the Twitter street, formerly or rather the X street, formerly known as Twitter, that's one thing you're very high on that platform. Now, you have emphasized the importance of understanding money. What steps can be taken to improve financial literacy among the Igbo youth? I mean, it reminds me in Baina Guauko, for you work I say X and Y, find X and find the other one. I see in you come 1,000 naira and go and I'm eating your X, na mama for Komananga for 1,000. So sometimes some things get people confused. Man, how do we ensure that what steps can be taken to improve the financial literacy amongst the Igbo youth?
Very, very basic stuff. Teach it in schools. Just teach it in schools. If you ask any child now, English, physics, maths, biology, they know that. They know they have to pass those to get somewhere in life. But they don't, they look at money as a life skill, something you learn outside school. And that's the problem. Alan Greenspan was the Fed chairman, second longest serving Fed chairman. He said the lack of financial literacy is the biggest problem in America. This is a guy that saw the Gulf War, saw 9/11, says the lack of financial literacy. And why do you say so? What caused the 2007 crash? People were buying homes without understanding what interest rates were. What is APR? What is APY? What is FICO? People don't understand those terms. So they go to the bank says, oh, you can have a house at ARM 5%. They don't know what that means, but they can afford the house immediately. So they move in. After 6 months, the bank says your mortgage has doubled. What do you mean it has doubled? Well, you signed it here, ARM, and then they have to lose the house. And that's what caused the financial crisis that affected Nigeria. So if you go teach basic stuff, how to do a budget, what does credit mean? How can I write a proposal to get loan from a bank? This is what you need to teach in school, not home economics. Sorry. Like if a child today is a mechanic, how can he get a loan from a community bank? It's not hard, but he has to know how to do it. What's the business plan? You know, what does macroeconomics mean? What does inflation rate mean to his prices? How does he calculate CIF if he's importing goods from China? If you equip folks with this knowledge, they become better investors, better taxpayers, and better citizens. You've got to teach people this stuff. It can't be something you learn from someone somewhere. So it has to be in the curriculum, in primary school, in secondary school, teaching about money. If you do this, you've solved a huge problem.
Ego.
There it
Ikwusikwa
goes.
kịta ịdakwọ maka na onye ga-etich, onye ga-akụzi, ọ bụkwa gọọmenti. Mana as it is, gọọmenti anyị dị ka ihe ndị oyibo na-akpọ na ọbago ekeghị ike,
No,
not
no.
modernized.
Go online. If you go online, right, there are lots of free resources that you can take live and just go to your school and teach children. Free. The US Fed has series like that. Harvard has series. There are lots of free resources. So all you need is to say, hey, students, on this same phone you are downloading, I want you to download and learn what is credit and come back and teach me tomorrow. My kids goes to school here. They have a project where they have to go and set up a business. Then they trade. The whole class they'll be trading. This one will say, I'm buying this from you. They give them fake money. And the whole class they are trading. And parents can come and watch. And the kids don't know they are learning. They'll be like, oh, I want to buy your Apple. This is my $2. What do you give me? Oh, they are teaching them how an economy works. The kids, to them, is fun. And the parents are there watching. And many schools many states in America are passing that financial literacy is a mandatory topic in schools. Many kids, I think in Australia, it's now mandatory. So if you teach a kid very, very early how to budget, if you get your allowance, you spend 10%, you save 10%, you pay 10% as tithes or taxes. You've what you've done to that kid at the very age he learns that. We teach kids how to pray in Nigeria. You wake up, you pray. Imagine if we teach them, you wake up and you save 10%. That's what the Chinese do. And that's why they are better, savers of money, because it's no longer, it's not a stressful, it's a habit. So if you learn good financial skills as a habit, the economy, the family, everyone gets better.
Okay, I mean, I think it's quite interesting that you said this now, because in a humorous post from you, yet very striking, I believe if the year is correct, that should be about 2022. You shared the story of a Nigerian lady who sold iPhones from her boyfriend to buy a house. Why? Again, people will say this is lighthearted. This particular incident speaks to the hustle culture among the Nigerian youth. People can say among the Igbo youth, but I mean, let's stay within the context of Nigeria now. And, from the last thing you said now, if I just oppose that, it means actually that is an extended version of understanding finance, because this lady in question, an iPhone, a lady singing, nah, I want iPhone 16. That's as good as saying I want to walk around with 2 million. If I want to speak to somebody, I place 2 million naira on my ears to listen to somebody speak to me from the other side of the world. But doing the other one means using that money to invest, meaning some can argue that is delayed gratification, meaning that lady actually understood the importance of investing. Speaking to that, how early do you think ekwesị ibido kụzibere ụmụazị Igbo. How early is early in getting them to understand about investment?
Yeah, as soon as they can talk and walk, even before they can do anything, just teach them. You can teach money in many, many ways. Yeah, you pay allowances. One thing that I like, one thing about the West that I like is how they, at the very, very early stage, let the kids know that, listen, you are going to be on your own by 18, no matter how rich the parents are. If you go to McDonald's, who do you see working there? 15, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. They come from homes because they will tell you, if you want to buy a car, you go work in McDonald's, you save your money, then you take your dad to the auto show, you're going to buy a third-hand car. That's how they operate. They're not going to buy you a car. No, you have rich people that buy you a car, but that's the standard. You go work in a fast food joint. You learn that, and they know why they are doing that. The kid will learn how to flip burgers. He gets paid full wages. He saves that money in the bank. He goes to school with that savings. In university, how do they fund university? They take students' loan, but they are also working. You see them doing waiter. You see them doing all this stuff while they're in school. 18, they're out of the house. So that's their culture. We don't have to copy 100%, but you can teach your kids about money, and it's best to teach your kids about money when they are young, not when they grow up. When an iroko tree is solid, you can't bend it. When you have the iroko tree, that little plant, you can wrap it around something, it will grow around that thing. It's a very, very basic thing. Give your child an allowance and say, any money you get, 10% you invest it, 10% you pay tithe or taxes, 10% you give as charity. Do with the rest what you want. Burn it into the kid's mind that he has got to save, he's got to invest, he's got to give money to charity. Something as basic as that. Right? How would you tell your kids, read me the budget of Nigeria or local government. Tell me what you understand there, what you understand there. I'm tired, read it to me. Because they're going to read it to you without not knowing that they are learning. Oh, Dad, what is this? You tell them what is this. I remember I told my kid once to write Apple, the price of Apple for the whole month. Every month, write the price of Apple stock for me. Not the boy wrote. He was calculating the price of Apple, the fruit, not Apple stock. So it was hilarious to me, but I told him, no, not the Apple fruit, Apple stock. Go on, put the TV on, and then you see Apple, that one, write it for me. So, and then find out what they do. So if you make it interesting for them, kids follow what their parents like. If they see you like it, they also like it. But if you tell them to go and study Apple, but you're not interested, they're not going to be interested. You can't teach a child money when you are not interested about money. You can't tell a child to save when you are not saving. So kids learn by observing. If they see you, how you operate with money, how you look at the news on Bloomberg, they also follow. So we've got to learn personally that discipline, and our kids also follow as well.
Okay. Mgbe ịkparịta ụka, you talked about the diaspora. Then I want to come back to the diaspora engagement. That is ụmụnna ndị nọ na mba ofesi. The Igbo diaspora holds a significant economic potential. How can we collectively channel diaspora investment into local development projects? Oh, kedukwane ka anyị ga-esi? Na ọ bụrụ na m chọrọ, apart from ụlọ anyị na-alụ na our various villages, kedu ka anyị ga-esi tinye ego ka eme ka na Igbo chawapụ? Ụfọdụ asị gị, oke, onwe ka anyị ga-asị ka anyị were Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway ka ọ bụ nọọ ndị diaspora nwee ka ha lụọ ya dozie ya. Ọ bụrụ Enugu Ọnịcha ka ha lụọ ya dozie ya, ka ha lụnye toll gate na ya. They can invest. Ọ bụrụ na onye may invest $10,000, then I don't know how long, maybe ọ bụrụ na shares or bonds go, then the things are negro. So the question there, just like I said before, kedu ihe a nwere ike ime to effectively channel diaspora investment into local development of an Igbo? Yeah,
so again, let's go back to the point you made. The key attribute that the Southeast has is their diaspora. That's a key advantage that the Southeast has that we have not taken advantage of. China has something called 1,000 talents, where if you're a Chinese person in the West, you can come back to China with what you have learned, and the Chinese government will give you the tools, the position, the space to invest what you have learned in the West in China. Okay, Nigeria is not yet there. But let me give you a practical example of how we can incorporate the diaspora into the Southeast. If you go to America, they have what they call credit union banks. They're very, very small. They're community banks, small credit union banks. They're all over Atlanta, all over Texas, and all that. Nigerians also send money back home to the Southeast. And we know what dollar is in Nigeria, how we look at the dollar and exchange rate. Let me tell you what you can do. You are a governor. You go to a credit union in Atlanta or Houston. You say, listen, I want to open up an account here. Whatever you want to do it, it will be called the Anambra account or the Enugu account, whatever account. A Southeast person can go to that bank and put money in that account, dollars or pounds at that account. When you put it there, you would have an internal mechanism to say that if I put $1 there, I get 1,600 in Nigeria. The governor will say, okay, Fidelity Bank, pay him 1,600. Money has not transferred. So you're not doing money transfer. You are accumulating dollars abroad. Naira is going here in Nigeria at no cost, because the cost of moving funds is what kills Africans. Because if you move dollars from America to Asia, you pay very, very little. But from America to Africa, you pay a lot. I don't know what name that they call it, maybe it's racist, but you pay a lot. So if you have all that dollars hooked up in America, what do you turn around and do? You go back to your investors in Anambra, you say, if you want dollars, you come through me, I can give you dollars to import your goods. It's still in America. The dollar has not moved. There's no money transfer. There's no EFCC. It's in America.
I know, but Egon Naira this is in Nigeria.
From Fidelity Bank, it's one is asset liability.
Okay.
Fidelity Bank will say, okay, we're opening up a cross account. If you put $1 here, we're giving you 1,600 here. So there's a claim on the state government for 1,600. And the state will say, okay, our claim is backed up by the dollars abroad. And then how do you close that loop? If you then want to import, you take your 1,600 in Naira and pay to the bank here. Enugu State will release dollars to you here. And you can do that and say it's only for companies that are in my state. So that way, the diaspora money is coming in quote, and you are supporting your importers in the state without going through CBN. Again, that's just step one. You can now elongate this and say, okay, step two. You want to do, like you say, you want to do diaspora to come in. Ask architects, carpenter, mason, bricklayer. Say, okay, if you want to participate in this program, register yourself, go and get guarantors. In the local government in say in Ohafia, if you're an architect, a mason that can work in that local government area, register yourself, you would employ the boys, you'll be on standby. If I want to build a house in Ohafia, I don't go and meet my uncle or my cousin. I go to that agency and say, I want to build a house here. They will give me the plan. The state will then get those books that are registered. This is how much I'm going to build a house for you. It's going to cost you 50 million naira. You pay to us, the state pays to them, they start to build deck. They build decking, the state to take picture, send to you, say, yes, confirmed, release the funds. A third party will release the title company, release the fund. Like that. They build a whole house for you. You eliminate this issue of you send money home, they didn't build house for you. It's a registered plan approved. You want to build in Ohafia or Enugu or Newi, the state is just coordinating. No money is coming to them. So you start from account. You go to building a house before you now get to building express road, which is what you call impact bond. You do a bond that instead of paying 6-8%, it's only going to pay 1%. It's quote unquote based on achievement. So the government only gets the money when they build a kilometer. So they build 1 kilometer, company will come and say, yes, a kilometer has been built, the funds are released to the government. Impact bond, you can Google it. It's already there. We have to then incorporate these things that are already existing into our environment in Nigeria. What I'm saying is not new, but you've got to use those things that already exist. This transfer issue, this remittances, because we already have it. So if we have remittances flowing in, 20 to 30 billion is what flows into remittances every year to Nigeria. Half of that is Southeast. So if you are getting 10 billion coming in, you should look for a way to capture that 10 billion to make it cheaper, easier, and faster to send money. If I am in Houston and I know if I send $1, my mother in Nnewi will get the exact 1,600 without any charge. Why would I not send it to her? Why? Same thing if you want to go further, tax credits. Open a 501c company, 501c3 charity in America. Instead of raising money to say, I want to build church, raise the charity in America. So when folks give you money in America, they write it off in their taxes. You say, I'm going to do you are doing a Nnewi charity project, register it in America. You go to Nnewi, you raise the funds. If I donate in America, I write it off my taxes. You bring that money back to Nigeria and you build the thing in Nigeria. The Nnewi folks the Nnewi Americans benefit, Nigeria benefits. This is why they say information and knowledge is power. All these things I've told you exist, but someone has got to say, this is how we will do it. It's not every time. They exist. Implement it. That's the difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
The test of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. So of course, they do exist. I got Bapio. So quickly, let me come down to infrastructural development, Nanibo. What's infrastructural investments are crucial for economic growth in the Southeast, and how can they be prioritized?
I would just say it's roads. If you do scale of preference, it's going to be roads, rails, before you get to airports. Of course, it's ignoring water supply and power, right? Or let's even include it. Water supply is given, so, but roads, rails, power, those three. The issue with the South is that we look at the Southeast more as a political union and not as an economic union. If you want to build roads in the Southeast in only Enugu State, it's more expensive than if you say you want to build roads in Enugu and Onitsha, Anambra. If you brought Julius Berger and you told Julius Berger, all 5 Southeast states, every year, we're going to take 10% of our budget and put into a fund. And this 10% fund, we want to build a highway, a ring road that will connect all 5 East states. And every year, whatever budget, we just take 10%, we fund it. Berger will create a brand new company just for that in the Southeast. And their job will be to build, train, and maintain that ring road all across the Southeast. They would even go ahead and start to build because they know that every year you have an irrevocable standing order payment from the federal government to fund them every month, 10% going to Berger to build. It can be any company to build that road. So you don't have roads going on. And people can even say, oh, this ring road is coming here. I will go ahead and build my own spur from my own local government to touch that ring road. So because the government is building, you now see other folks then building their own local government roads to touch that spur. That's how you get development going. America built the interstate highways, the I-5s, all over the place. Now you have the little arterial roads joining and linking up the agricultural farmlands to the cities. When you then build roads, you can talk about then connecting them with rails. So you can move produce in and out to the ports in Onne, in Warri, and all that. That's going to be these two, roads and rails, to connect the towns, the manufacturing hubs in Nnewi, Onitsha, Aba, to all the cities and to the ports, so that you double the economy by an investment of infrastructure. That's what should be the target. Of course, power supply is going to be essential. Thank God you have gas in Imo State. Thank God you have Transcorp Power. You already have the elements here. You already have the one in Abia State. So gas is federal, not state, federal. But you have an election coming up. The 5 Southeast governors should go and tell whoever wants to win the Southeast states must guarantee that we can tap Imo gas on a state level. Doesn't matter who it is. Let them all say, yes, we guarantee you that in 20 whatever, Imo State gas can be tapped by private sector and Imo State. When you get the gas out of Imo State and you can power the Southeast, you are not going to attract manufacturing concerns to the Southeast because power is now cheap. Only 2 regions have gas in Nigeria, the South-South and the Southeast. The South-South gas is being taken from the South-South all the way to the Southwest and even to the north through Ajaokuta. The southeast gas is being taken away from Imo State to the southwest. There is no local gas pipeline in the southeast, none. You have a local gas pipeline in Abia State. It's just a small pipeline in Abia State. The one in Imo State is taking gas out of Imo. It's not being used in Imo. If you simply solve the gas problem in the southeast, then you then have manufacturers, Innocent can make cars at a quarter of the power price is paying. Jobs, GDP, VAT, and economy expanded by just having cheap gas in the southeast. Again, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, why do you think if I stay on this gas, I'm aware that the power plant we have in Aba, the greatest impediment they have, even when they don't want to sometimes make these things bring it to the fore, but back channel, we know that the greatest impediment they have and they do suffer is gas, to even power the turbines. Now, and we are here in the southeast, and people listening to you now, aina eweta gas, mana onwero nke anyị nwe na na-ewepụ ya na-eje ebe ọzọ. Ndị South ụmụnne anyị na na-ewepụkwa nke fa na-eje ebe ọzọ. Then if beggars believe and mmadụ ga-ajụzi nwoke ọ nọkwa n'ụlọ ọkwado ndị mmadụ na-achị ya ife. And what do you think is the issue?
Yeah, like I said, it's a federal issue, and you can only get that sort of approval if the 5 Southeast governors, together with all the leadership, if you go to Tinubu and you say, President Tinubu, this is what we want from you, why won't he give it to you? Why won't he give it to you?
Did
you ask him? Did they ask him? Did they say this is what we want for the Southeast? No, he's commissioning this, commissioning that. You see, again, this what they say, South doesn't have to play politics. They say that all the time. This is something that affects the entire Southeast. Again, you've got to look at the Southeast as an economic bloc, not just a political bloc. If you go to the man, Ebonyi State is very, very close to the man, right? The Ebonyi guy is very, very close to it. Okay, this is what I want to do for the Southeast. I want to connect gas. Give it to us. We are celebrating Southeast Development Commission. We're not celebrating that the gas there is not being used in the Southeast. If you unlock gas to the Southeast, you triple the GDP of the Southeast. If you triple GDP of Southeast, Nigeria's GDP is going to go up. Tinubu wants that also. It's a win-win.
Manabiko, cheluko. I mean, what would ever come to somebody's mind to say that na inwe gas eba and you are not able to? I mean, it's just like somebody in inwe charcoal na your house and you're inwe rikisini, but mad be blue charcoal di bay jebozo when a silonyozo ni all you do go on all begging na no listen isi jollof rice and age charcoal gas.
That's the reality of the situation. What I've told you, you can easily verify it. Abia has very limited gas pipelines. I wish I could share images here. I'll show you the gas pipeline in Nigeria. Imo has more gas per capita than maybe even any state in Nigeria. Imo State. It's a gas state. And if you simply capture that gas in Imo, pipe it to Newi or Aba, power costs drop. Power is 40% of manufacturing in Nigeria. Power, 40%. So remove 40% from the cost of doing goods. We are competing with China. Now, China and America are fighting. You have an international airport in Nnewi that has a free trade zone. That's the only airport in Nigeria that has a free trade zone. So look at what's going to happen now. Yeah. So you are in Enugu State. You are getting gas from Imo State. You now turn that Enugu axis to a manufacturing hub, or you link it by rail to under virgin area, Ebonyi, manufacturing hub. You manufacture in Ebonyi, move by train to Enugu Airport, export it to China and America. That's what China is going to looking for a country to dodge the US tariffs.
Okay.
So you have the opportunity right there.
I mean, I understand Namana Gimwelu less than 10 minutes to go because Ingwe had stopped. But quickly, I want to do something very fast. And my audience, sadly, I think we'll have to find time to bring Mr. Kalu Aja back. At least I needed to tap from his wisdom here, but I will not be allowing audience question today. But please, just so that Kamunia finish it. Kalu, but when you talked about railway, something that I was listening to your space the other day. Somebody was making the argument why the Southeast Rail line is not viable, right? As you know, to build it just for the Southeast without connecting it, obviously, because it can't stand alone. I think was it Enugu State government they want to go and build it in one of the ports. That means you have to build near Enugu and you have to go and build in another state. So so why do we actually down say Southeast? Can we now say Eastern Rail Network or something that will make it more inclusive? And how do we get it cheaper?
Yeah, that's the point I just made now. It's cheaper to build in the whole 5 states than in just one state. It's cheaper because the cost per mile then drops, right? So just in Enugu State saying I want to build a rail line doesn't make any sense because it's not connected. That's the point he was making. If you build from Enugu to the port, it doesn't make any sense. But if you connect Enugu to the other southeast states, then the other southeast states are also building to the port, then the rail now becomes more usable and the economics then start to make sense. The southeast alone is an economic hub. So any connection is going to make money for you. In some other parts of the country, if you connect a rail within two spokes, you might not have a lot of commerce. But it's difficult for you to connect with any 2 spokes in the southeast and not get traffic. In Newi, Aba, or in Owerri, you always get it's a bit of a traffic and commerce going on. But we're not taking advantage of it. It's a Port Harcourt railway, right? It goes through Port Harcourt, Imo, and all that. Good. And railways are now states, it's now of the exclusive list. So the state governors, this is the same thing I say again, take 10%, 20% of your money, create a fund, the Southeast Development Infrastructure Fund, put it in there, and I agree what is the infrastructure that we all agree, whether we are Labour, APC, PDP, that we should build. Ring road in the Southeast, rail in the Southeast, waterways, let these guys just fund it. If you connect Owerri to Aba, to Newi, be very real, man, the GDP is going to go up. This is the point you're making. I agree with you.
Okay, so quickly, the digital economy, with the rise of digital economy, how can Ndi Igbo position themselves to take advantage of opportunities in tech and innovation?
It's that
Again,
education.
does that are you going to argue that piggies back or to education?
Yeah, of course. If you go to University of Nigeria, I went to University of Nigeria. They taught me GS, computer. I didn't see a computer, but this was a long time ago. I was drawing a computer. I didn't see it. My brother went to University of Nigeria. He left after one session. He went abroad because they were not going to teach him anything. He was learning it at home. He said he knew the whole syllabus for the entire 4 years. So why do you need a BSc computer science? We should basically go to university, just bring in Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and convert the university to a certification for these guys. So if you go into UNN, you are learning that skill because you are instantly employable. The same with banking and finance. Bring in ICANN. If you go to Nigeria and you graduate with BSc accountancy, you are automatically a chartered accountant. So skills have to be tied in with education. We can't just bring out people that just know how to BSc this, BSc that. We don't have a university that teaches Nollywood. When I mean Nollywood, camera, lights, sound effects. We don't have that. We have a lot of people that say they are doing skits. Where are they learning their sound effects from? Where are they learning the lightning from? There's a university way in America, New York, that teaches you that. So they're not stupid in that university to teach you, and then you just wake up and say you're doing skits. Skits make a lot of money now. But if you don't teach it, Rwanda will teach it, and Nigerians will go to Rwanda and learn it and then spend our forex. So it's back to education. You've got to focus on teaching those skills that create those jobs that our youths are doing. It's back to this trade and services. Lead in that area. It doesn't take a lot, but change the whole education outcome. It's not go and teach BSc, there's BSc that. Those things don't matter anymore.
And, I can win many questions, but the final question before I let you go quickly, I know your space is starting in 5 minutes' time. Access to capital. Many entrepreneurs, for funding. What financial instruments or policies can alleviate these challenges? Okay, and we give ndị mmadụ nwee access to structured funding.
I think there's a bank called the Graham Bank, the one that was in Bangladesh. That should be our model, the Graham Bank. Most of the capital that Nigerians need is not 1 million, it's 500,000, 10,000, 20,000 daily money. Just that quick capital. I want to go and buy this and sell this. We will focus our efforts to address that subset of the Nigerian economy. In the local governments, in the states, we get a more bang for our money. If you take ₦1 billion as guarantee to a commercial bank and say, listen, if you are going to do any business from Enugu State, we will guarantee you up to 500,000. You go to a bank, you want to borrow 500,000 naira, the state will guarantee you. Fine. Some people will take that money and run away. Okay, that's fine. But you have their name, they won't get the loan anymore. But some people will take it and pay back. That's the only place they can get a loan from. And that's where the state government has to come in, because it's not a commercial venture, but it's a guarantee, because they can never get credit. And you can have, even if you have a 50% success rate, that's 50% that would never have happened in a commercial setting. So you've got to bring this cost of capital and access to capital to really to the bottom of the pyramid and make it viable. You can't ask people to go and get credit without collateral. But if you start them up, that collateral then becomes what they then build as they do their job. So that's what I would say. Take it down, break it down to the bottom of the pyramid. Ignore the 5 billion. Take it down to the 50,000. I need 1 billion. And I think you're going to have a better sense from there.
So thank you very much, my brother. I'll let you go, but promise us.
Yeah, let's do this again. No problem.
So,
I know that you didn't have them like.
Okay. So I'll let you go now. So we would have another time. Is a promise that you're going to come back.
Yeah, I'll come back. Sure. Let's do this again.
Thank you.
All right. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for all you folks listening. Yeah, let's do this again. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you, everyone. This is the State of the Igbo Nation Town Hall series by Njenje Media. And my guest today is Kalu Ajay, distinguished financial expert, educator, and author of Let's Talk